Have you ever noticed how life can feel like a wild dance that slips just beyond your grasp? The more we chase after what we want, the faster it seems to dart away. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. The tighter you squeeze, the more it trickles through your fingers. But what if I told you the secret isn't in gripping harder, but in learning to let go when we stop forcing, stop resisting, and simply allow life to flow, something truly remarkable unfolds. Life doesn't spiral into chaos. Instead, it moves toward a surprising clarity, a harmony that we rarely expect. This episode dives deep into that enigmatic power of surrender, not surrender as defeat, but surrender as a wise yielding. It's about leaning into the natural rhythm of the universe, trusting an unseen intelligence that's always at work, even when we can't see the path. Have you ever wondered what happens if we stop trying to control every detail and instead trust that life has its own timing and plan? Imagine trusting the river to find the sea, not by forcing its way, but by flowing along the curves of the land. Think about those moments when you felt completely stuck. Maybe it's in your career, a relationship, or a dream you've chased for years. You push, you strategize, you hustle nonstop, but the door stays firmly closed. So what do? Often you push harder, tightening your grip, believing that if you just control more, you'll finally break through. But here's the paradox: sometimes that very effort to control is what keeps the door locked tight. Have you ever felt that the more you force something, the more resistant life becomes? When frustration builds and options seem exhausted, there comes a pivotal moment, not one of surrender out of weakness, but one of necessity. When we stop resisting because we must, and we let go of the struggle, something shifts. Without the pressure, without the demands, life begins to move again. It's as if by releasing our clenched fist, we open ourselves to receive what's been waiting all along. Many people mistake surrender for giving up, but real surrender is a powerful act of openness. It's not about abandoning your dreams. It's about releasing the tight grip on how and when those dreams must come to life. This kind of surrender is wisdom in action, a deep trust in the flow of life itself. Imagine your hand again. A clenched fist is strong, but it can hold very little. An open hand, relaxed and ready, can hold anything. That image captures the heart of true surrender, caring deeply but no longer micromanaging the universe, no longer trying to force every outcome. So what might change if you stop trying so hard? What doors might open if you simply trusted the process and allowed life to unfold naturally? This is the mystery and the magic we'll explore today, the quiet power of surrender that brings not loss but alignment, not chaos but clarity. Imagine Sarah, a passionate artist who devoted years of her life chasing success in the art world. She did everything by the book: endless promotions, networking tirelessly, producing work nonstop. On paper, she was doing all the right things. Yet beneath the surface, her creativity felt stifled. Her art lacked the spark it once had, and her life grew unbearably heavy. Can you relate to that feeling of pushing so hard that it drains the joy out of what you love? Eventually, Sarah hit burnout, a wall where no amount of effort seemed to break through. So she made a bold choice. She stopped trying to make it and returned to creating purely for the joy of expression, without any hidden agenda or strategy. And then something magical happened. Without the pressure to succeed, her work radiated honesty and vulnerability. A gallery owner happened to discover her art and was moved by its raw truth. He offered her a solo exhibition, a breakthrough that unlocked doors she had been pushing against for years. But here's the twist: it wasn't her relentless effort that opened those doors. It was her willingness to stop resisting and simply flow with the process. What does this teach us? That sometimes the greatest shifts come not from pushing harder, but from releasing our grip and trusting the natural rhythm of life. Desire itself isn't the problem. Wanting something deeply is part of being human. It fuels our dreams and ambitions. But the trouble begins when desire morphs into control. When we start measuring our worth by how quickly things happen or how perfectly reality aligns with our plans, we lose touch with the natural flow. Have you ever felt trapped in a schedule or a plan so tight that there's no room for surprise or growth? Surrender is the gentle art of stepping back and trusting that what's meant for us will find its way, not because we chase it harder, but because we learn to align with it. Now, surrender doesn't mean we stop taking action. Far from it. The key difference is that our actions come from a place of calm clarity instead of frantic desperation. We move forward not out of fear of falling behind, but inspired by possibility and purpose. This subtle shift changes everything. Surrender is not about inactivity, it's about intelligent participation. Think of it like planting a seed in your garden. You water it, give it sunlight, and then patiently wait. You don't keep digging up the seed every day to check if it's growing, because you know growth takes time and can't be rushed. So ask yourself, where in your life are you clutching too tightly? What dream are you holding so hard it can't breathe and grow? What part of your journey are you forcing instead of allowing to flow naturally? Perhaps it's time to loosen your grip. Maybe it's time to let go of the need to control every twist and turn of the path ahead. Because here's the truth, we don't always need to know how it will unfold. What we do need is to listen deeply, to act from alignment, and to trust that letting go doesn't lead us off course. It actually places us right on the path we're meant to follow. If there's one powerful change you can make today, let it be this: move from pressure to presence. Release not your dreams, but the timelines, formulas, and controls you've imposed on them. Watch closely what begins to shift in your life when you do. Often the biggest obstacle isn't the outside world, it's something more subtle and personal. It's resistance. That invisible force that creeps in just when we're on the verge of doing something meaningful. It whispers doubts, feeds fears, and convinces us that staying safe is better than stepping forward. Have you felt that quiet resistance before? Sometimes we don't even recognize it. We just feel stuck, unmotivated, or even worse, we sabotage ourselves. Resistance hides right in front of us, disguised as protection, when in reality it keeps us small, stuck, and confined. But here's a fascinating truth. Resistance only shows up where something meaningful is trying to be born. It's not a sign that you failed. It's a signal of potential. Imagine walking through a dark room and suddenly bumping into a wall. That wall isn't there to stop you forever, but to alert you that you've reached the threshold of something real and important. So instead of retreating, what if we took a moment to pause and ask ourselves, what am I truly afraid of? Because resistance almost always springs from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of harsh judgment, fear of not being enough. It's the part of you eager to grow, clashing with the part of you desperate to stay safe and comfortable. That inner tension, it's completely natural. It means you're alive, that something important is unfolding. Consider Adam, a writer with a burning dream of publishing a novel. He had the talent, the vision, and even the time. But every time he sat down to write, anxiety would flood his mind with what ifs. What if the story is terrible? What if no one reads it? What if I fail? So instead of facing the page, he busied himself rearranging his bookshelves or rereading old drafts, avoiding the real work. Resistance kept him active, but away from his true goal. Yet everything shifted when Adam stopped fighting his fear and instead welcomed it as part of the creative process. He didn't defeat resistance, he learned to dance with it. This is what true surrender looks like in the face of resistance, not overpowering it, but acknowledging it and choosing to move forward anyway. A gentle approach helps. Kindness toward yourself and a curious mind can open new doors. Instead of beating yourself up for being lazy or undisciplined, try asking, what is this resistance really protecting me from? What belief lies beneath this fear? Perhaps you believe success will cost your relationships, or failure will prove you're not worthy, or that trying your best and still falling short would hurt more than never trying at all. These beliefs carry heavy weight, but they are not set in stone. When we shine a light on them, they start to lose their power. You might even try having a conversation with your resistance. Write a letter from that fearful voice inside that says, don't do it. Let it speak its truth. Then respond, not to argue, but to reassure, I hear you, but I'm not here to stay stuck. Because staying stuck might feel safe, but it's also suffocating. Deep down, you know you weren't born for safety alone. You were born to express, to create, to grow. That means learning to dance with resistance, not letting it control the stage. One powerful way to soften resistance is by breaking down the challenge into smaller, manageable steps. Big dreams can feel overwhelming, almost like towering mountains, casting long shadows over our ambitions. When the dream feels too vast to grasp, the key is to shrink the scale. You don't have to write an entire book today. Just start with a single paragraph. You don't need to launch a full business right away. Simply sketch out an idea. And you don't have to change your entire life overnight. Taking one honest step forward is enough. Why? Because resistance thrives on overwhelm. It feeds on the anxiety of trying to do too much at once, but presence, being fully in the moment, has the power to dissolve that overwhelm into something manageable and gentle. Remember this feeling. Resistance doesn't mean you're broken or failing. It simply means you're human. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced this invisible weight. What sets them apart is not the absence of resistance, but their refusal to wait for it to disappear. Instead, they moved through it, breathed with it, and trusted that on the other side of fear lies freedom. So today, rather than asking, how do I get rid of this resistance? Ask yourself, what is resistance trying to show me? What deeper truth is waiting to surface beneath that discomfort? Then with compassion and courage, take one step forward anyway. That very moment is where you reclaim your power, not by force, but through surrender. It's the quiet, brave act of moving ahead, even when fear begs you to stop. There is a kind of silence that follows resistance, not the peaceful kind, but a heavy, unsettling quiet. It's the space where doubt creeps in. Is this really worth it? Am I on the wrong path? Should I give up now? And in that uneasy place, we often reach for control. We try to map out every possible outcome, lock down every answer, and force life to give us guarantees. But life doesn't work on our schedules, and maybe it isn't meant to. There's a far greater rhythm at play, one beyond what we can see or control. Plans and effort are important, no doubt. They help guide us, keep us moving. But they aren't the whole story. There's a larger intelligence flowing through your life, a force some call the universe, others call divine timing. Whatever name you give it, the essence remains the same. This force knows more than we do. When we learn to trust it, things begin to align in unexpected and beautiful ways. Trusting this process is difficult because it asks us to surrender, not just intellectually, but emotionally. It means being okay with not knowing exactly how things will unfold. It means taking steps forward even when the path is dimly lit or completely unseen. That's a tough ask for a mind that craves certainty and control. But maybe the heart doesn't need certainty. Maybe it only needs connection. Connection to ourselves, to what moves us deeply. Take Maya, for example. She spent years trying to find her true purpose. She devoured self-help books, jumped between jobs, and carefully crafted 5-year plans. But nothing truly fit. Then one day she stopped searching outside and started listening within. She tuned in not to experts or trends, but to the quiet stirrings of her own soul. Slowly, one small decision at a time, she followed that subtle inner voice. A year later, Maya found herself doing work that felt alive, meaningful, and perfectly aligned, not because she forced it, but because she trusted the unfolding journey. This is what trusting the universe truly looks like. It's not about sitting around waiting for flashy signs or perfect conditions to appear. Instead, it's about staying open to the unexpected, being alert to the subtle nudges life sends your way, and having the courage to act even when the outcome feels uncertain. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when things don't go according to your carefully laid plans, it doesn't mean you're failing? Sometimes not getting exactly what you want clears the way for something you actually need, something even better than you imagine. But to embrace this kind of trust, you need to release your obsession with timing. Stop measuring your progress by someone else's clock or comparing your journey to another's timeline. The universe isn't running on deadlines or schedules. It operates on alignment, on being ready, on growing into the person who is meant to receive what's coming. When that time arrives, things unfold swiftly and effortlessly, not because you chase them harder, but because you have become who you needed to be for those opportunities to arrive. Of course, trusting the process doesn't mean becoming passive. Trust isn't an excuse to sit back and hope. It's a call to remain present, to keep showing up with an open heart and willingness. You still take action, you still play your part, but from a place of partnership with life, not out of pressure or desperation. Imagine a dancer perfectly in sync with the rhythm of the music, flowing gracefully, rather than someone dragging the beat behind them. There's a freedom in that harmony. There's peace in understanding that life isn't working against you, nor is it trying to test or punish you. Instead, it's shaping you, molding you through every twist and turn. Those moments when things don't work out, they're often redirections, not rejections. Closed doors are actually pathways to something better. Delays are preparation for greater things yet to come. But you can only see these deeper patterns when you stop forcing the story to fit your expectations and start listening for the bigger narrative underneath. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been pushing too hard, trying to force outcomes? Where have you mistaken struggle and resistance for genuine progress? Can you begin to trust not blindly, but consciously that what's meant for you is already making its way to you? When you do, when you loosen your grip on rigid timelines and allow yourself to move in harmony with something larger than yourself, you'll notice a subtle but profound shift, not only in what you attract, but in how grounded, open, and peaceful you feel inside. This is the quiet magic of trust. It won't make your life perfect, but it will make it real. And in a world full of noise, stress, and endless pressure, that's more than enough. We often believe that effort alone is the solution, that if we just push harder, do more, and grind nonstop, eventually life will yield to us. But what if the true key isn't about forcing more, but creating more space? What if what you really need isn't more striving, but more allowing? There's a powerful difference between action born from fear and action born from alignment. When we act from fear, we rush, we control, and we demand immediate results. But when we act from alignment, we move with purpose, patience, and trust. We often find ourselves constantly measuring our value by the outcomes we achieve. It's like living in a future-focused mindset, always looking ahead for some form of validation to reassure us about the present moment. But what if there's a different way? When we act from alignment, that deep place inside where our truth lives, there's a calmness that surrounds our actions, a clarity that's hard to find when we're chasing something outside ourselves. Instead of scrambling after results, we're responding to something authentic and grounded within us. To allow means letting go of the frantic need to force everything into place immediately. It means understanding that not every situation requires immediate intervention. Have you ever noticed how some things naturally unfold over time, like a slow-moving sunrise? Some problems don't need instant fixing, and some answers only reveal themselves when the noise in our minds quiets enough to truly hear them. This concept of allowing isn't always easy to embrace. Society has conditioned many of us to equate control with success, applauding those who take charge, push relentlessly, and make things happen on their own terms. Because of that conditioning, stepping back can feel like laziness, a lack of responsibility. But here's the paradox: there is a real discipline in allowing. It requires strength to hold space without interference. It takes wisdom to discern when to act and when to step aside. To allow is to trust in timing, but also to trust yourself. This isn't passive waiting or avoidance. It's a mindful presence, alert, awake, deeply connected. You're not ignoring what's unfolding around you. Instead, you're choosing not to react out of panic or pressure. You're deciding to respond with presence and intention. There's a unique kind of power in that choice, a power that doesn't demand attention, but quietly commands respect. It doesn't seek external validation, but radiates an inner confidence that's steady and unwavering. Often the solutions we desperately seek appear more naturally when we stop chasing and start listening. Consider how nature nurtures growth. A tiny seed doesn't transform into a mighty tree overnight. It requires the right conditioned space to breathe fertile soil, sunlight, and patient stillness. When we try to rush that natural process, we risk damaging what could have flourished beautifully. The same principle applies to our goals, relationships, and inner healing. They don't benefit from more pressure or force. What they truly need is the right space and conditions to grow at their own pace. So maybe the real question isn't, what else can I do? But rather, what can I let go of? Can you release the desperate need to have all the answers immediately? Can you stop trying to push solutions and instead allow things to unfold in their own perfect timing? Can you trust that your energy will be better spent cultivating clarity and presence than attempting to control every outcome? Because when you create that space of allowing, something beautiful begins to happen. You start moving with life, not against it. You begin to tune into your own rhythm rather than the constant noise and rush around you. And from that grounded place, things start aligning in unexpected, harmonious ways, not because you pushed harder, but because you finally stepped out of your own way. So take a deep breath, soften that urgency inside, let yourself fully be here in this moment. You don't need to force what's meant to flow naturally. You don't need to chase what's already making its way toward you. Allow it, trust it, respond with presence, not panic. When you do, you'll discover that what's truly meant for you doesn't require force, it only needs space to arrive. After all, expectations often become silent burdens weighing us down, but letting go can set us free. We carry with us invisible burdens, expectations about who we should be, how quickly we should advance, and what success is supposed to look like. These invisible scripts shape the way we think, twist our perceptions, and often leave us feeling disheartened and disappointed. But here's the thing, it's not life that has failed us. Instead, it's that life didn't follow the rigid script we wrote inside our heads. And more often than not, that script, the expectations we cling to, are far from reality. These expectations are born not out of clarity or truth, but from fear, comparison, and the desperate need to control. We don't just want things to happen. We want them to happen exactly as we plan, on our timeline, with our conditions under our control. And when life refuses to play by our rules, we feel betrayed, frustrated, even lost. But here's a crucial truth we often miss. Expectations create tension, and tension blocks the natural flow of life. It's not the desire itself that causes pain. Desire is natural and vision is powerful. But when our desires harden into inflexible expectations, that's when suffering begins. We tighten our focus so much that we miss the vast array of gifts life tries to offer beyond the narrow tunnel of our expectations. We close ourselves off to surprise, to mystery, to the exquisite beauty of not knowing what's next. Imagine holding onto a tight grip over a delicate flower. You might crush it. But if you open your hand and let it rest gently, the flower can bloom. There is a quiet and profound freedom in letting go of expectations, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to allow life to unfold in its own unique way. Letting go means showing up fully, putting forth your best effort, and then releasing the desperate need for a specific outcome. This isn't about giving up, it's about growing up. Reflect for a moment, how many times have expectations fueled unnecessary pain? You expected someone to react a certain way, but they didn't. You expected to achieve a goal by a set date, but it didn't happen. You expected to feel a certain way after reaching a milestone, but the feeling never came. In every one of these moments, the hurt didn't stem from what actually happened. It came from the gap between reality and what you expected to happen. That gap, that hidden cost, is the trap. Expectations tie your peace, your joy, to things you ultimately cannot control. They make your happiness conditional on external circumstances. And when life inevitably takes a different path, you feel broken, not because you truly are broken, but because you built your inner world on shaky ground, timelines, and outcomes that were never fully yours to command. So what's the alternative? It's not apathy or indifference. It's presence, a deep, conscious commitment to the process itself, rather than obsession with the prize. It's the daily choice to show up with open heart and dedication, to care deeply, to dream boldly, but without letting expectations define your worth or your happiness. You can still make plans, you can still work hard, you can still hold a clear vision for your life, but hold that vision lightly, like a beautiful balloon that needs room to rise. Let it breathe. Leave space for life's surprises. Because when you do, you open the door for unexpected blessings and joy that rigid expectations could never have allowed in. Often the most beautiful and transformative moments in our lives come completely unannounced. Unexpected gifts that catch us off guard because we were too focused on what we thought should happen. When we cling too tightly to our preconceived expectations, we become blind to the magic unfolding right in front of us. So take a moment to pause and reflect. What expectations are you still holding on to that no longer serve your growth? What stories have you scripted in your mind about how your life should look by this point? And what might happen if you decided to release those stories, not to give up or fall behind, but to return fully to what's real and present? Because when you do let go, you'll start to feel something remarkable, a lightness, a spaciousness, a gentle calmness, even in the face of uncertainty. And within that newfound space, a powerful shift begins, not outside of you, but deep within. A sense of freedom blooms, accompanied by clarity and a quiet confidence that whatever life brings your way, you will meet it with presence. Not with pressure or panic, but with open hands and an open heart. That presence, more than any fixed outcome, is where true peace resides. Silence isn't emptiness. Stillness isn't passivity. In fact, it's often in those quiet moments when we stop striving, stop chasing, and stop controlling that the most profound transformations take place. Yet how often do we actually create space for stillness? We tend to view it as unproductive, as just a pause between the real parts of life. But here's the truth. Stillness is the sacred space where we reconnect with ourselves, where clarity emerges, and where we touch something deeper than our thoughts. Meditation in its purest form isn't about escaping life. It's about embracing it fully. It's a practice of surrender, not a grand gesture, but a quiet return to presence, a gentle coming home to the breath and to what's happening right now, free from judgment or resistance. Often tension lives within us, unnoticed in our thoughts, in the tightness of our bodies, in the subtle rush with which we approach each moment. Meditation offers a mirror to that tension. It slows us down enough to notice the constant noise we've grown accustomed to living with. And simply by noticing, we begin to loosen its grip. You don't need to be a monk or retreat to a quiet mountain temple to reap these benefits. You don't need hours of perfect silence or the ideal environment. Just a few minutes of intentional awareness can change the course of your entire day. Sit quietly, close your eyes, and feel your breath flowing in and out of your body. Don't try to control it, just observe it. When thoughts inevitably arise, notice them without getting caught up or following their trails. Let them drift by like clouds floating across a vast sky. This practice isn't about stopping your thoughts completely. It's about no longer being carried away by them. Over time, you'll discover a deeper stillness beneath the noise, a quiet that's not empty but full of awareness, full of life. In that moment of deep awareness, surrender begins to feel natural, effortless, even because you're no longer trapped by the chains of what should be. Instead, you are fully present with what actually is. Meditation isn't the only path to experiencing this kind of surrender, but it's one of the clearest and most direct. It gently trains the mind to release its tight grip on control. It soothes the nervous system, allowing it to soften after being tense for so long. It creates a safe space where the heart can open and feel once again, without judgment, without resistance. From that spacious place, fresh insights arise not through force or struggle, but through stillness and deep connection. The world around us is noisy. Our minds are even louder. Yet within each of us lies a quiet sanctuary, untouched by all that noise, a place of peace, wisdom, and gentle presence. When you visit that inner sanctuary regularly, even if only for a few minutes, your entire relationship with life transforms. Instead of reacting impulsively to every challenge, you begin to respond with calm intention. Instead of feeling the need to fix every problem, you learn to trust that some things simply are. This is the true foundation of surrender, not just a mindset, but a daily practice. It's a grounded return to the self, not the self weighed down by expectations and demands, but the self that simply is. The self that watches without judgment, breathes without haste, and allows without interference. So ask yourself, can you gift yourself just 5 minutes today? 5 minutes of stillness, not to accomplish anything, not to figure out some solution, but simply to be present with what's here right now. Because the more frequently you return to that quiet space, the more surrender becomes second nature, not just an idea, but a way of living. When surrender becomes a habit, life stops feeling like a challenge you have to control or manage. Instead, it becomes a dialogue, a trust, a dance you flow with one breath at a time. We often confuse control with strength. We believe that the tighter our grip on schedules, outcomes, and routines, the more powerful we become. We micromanage every detail, obsess over every result, clutch our plans as though they were lifelines. But here's the irony. Most of our craving for control doesn't arise from true power. It comes from fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of losing what we have, fear of uncertainty. The more we try to dominate life, the further we drift from its natural flow. And paradoxically, the tighter we cling, the more things slip right through our fingers. Control offers the illusion of safety, but rarely grants peace. Instead, it brings tension, anxiety, and the exhausting burden of demanding that everything follow our script perfectly. And when life inevitably deviates, we collapse under the weight of disappointment. We question ourselves. We feel like failures. But have we truly failed, or did we simply believe that we were ever truly in control? Surrender invites us to challenge this false belief. It calls us to rethink what real power is. Not power that forces or controls, but power that flows and adapts. Not power that dominates, but power that listens and responds. True power is not loud or boastful. It is deeply rooted. It does not need to prove itself. Instead, it trusts in its own ability to respond wisely rather than react impulsively. This shift is radical. It asks us to unlearn everything we thought we knew about strength and control, to let go of the illusion of mastery and embrace the fluidity of life itself. Most of us grow up believing that control is essential for survival. We're taught that if we don't plan meticulously, prepare for every possible outcome, and try to predict the future, everything will collapse around us. But life isn't a mechanical machine. It's a dynamic living process. And the truth is, processes don't respond well to force. Instead, they respond to presence, to awareness, and to alignment. Letting go of the need to control doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. Rather, it means shifting from trying to force specific outcomes to choosing how we respond to whatever unfolds. It's moving from the rigid mindset of, I must make this happen, to a more flexible one. I will meet whatever happens with clarity and intention. This shift changes everything: your stress levels, your sense of self-worth, your ability to handle setbacks with grace. Suddenly, you stop internalizing every challenge as a personal failure. You begin to see each moment as an opportunity to listen, to adapt, to grow. Control is rigid and unyielding, but surrender is responsive and fluid. And responsiveness, that's exactly what life asks of us. This doesn't mean you stop setting goals or making plans, but it does mean you stop tying your identity to those outcomes. You start to recognize that you are not defined by your results, nor your productivity, nor your ability to micromanage every detail. You are the awareness behind it all, the part of you that can choose, again adjust, and continue forward without carrying the heavy burden of perfectionism. So take a moment now. Where in your life is control dominating? Where are you gripping so tightly that you've lost your natural ease? Where have your daily routines turned from supportive containers into confining cages? Can you soften just a little? Can you trust that not every single thing needs to be micromanaged down to the last detail? Because in that softening, you don't lose power, you gain freedom. Freedom to adapt, to pivot, to move with life's rhythms instead of constantly fighting against them. You become more resilient, not because you control everything, but because you realize you don't have to. That is real strength. Strength that bends without breaking. Strength that listens before it speaks, that understands, I am not here to conquer life. I am here to collaborate with it. And in that collaboration, the urge to control fades away. In its place grows something deeper: wisdom, trust, and a quiet confidence that you can meet whatever comes with grace and presence. Here's a paradox we often overlook: the moment you stop desperately needing something is often the very moment it begins to arrive. Not because life is toying with you, but because letting go changes your energy. It shifts your focus from scarcity and grasping to presence and receiving. And in that shift, you create space for life to respond. It's a curious pattern: you push, you strive, you chase, and nothing seems to move. Then in a moment of quiet surrender, you release your grip on the outcome. Suddenly, things begin to unfold. Opportunities appear. Clarity emerges. People show up. It might not happen instantly, but the pattern is undeniable. Surrender invites alignment, not because you gave up, but because you gave in to flow, to timing, to trust. To truly grasp this idea, we need to dive a little deeper and ask ourselves a profound question. Why do we crave what we crave so intensely? Is it because we genuinely believe that obtaining this thing will finally make us whole, safe, or somehow enough? Much of our relentless striving doesn't stem from pure inspiration or joy. It arises from the deep-rooted belief that we are incomplete without the very thing we're chasing. And that belief carries an enormous weight, a pressure that whispers, until this happens, I cannot find peace. Surrender offers a powerful way to break free from this exhausting cycle. It tells us that it's okay to want something and still feel whole. It teaches us that we can chase our dreams and remain at peace within ourselves. Surrender draws a clear line between desire and desperation, and it's in that separation that true freedom is born. This doesn't mean we abandon our goals or dreams. Instead, it means we stop letting them control us. We show up fully committed, diligent, engaged, but without the suffocating need to grip tightly onto specific outcomes. We stop measuring our worth based on whether life unfolds exactly as we wished. Instead, we come to understand that how we live, how we meet each moment, matters far more than what we achieve. There's a beautiful paradox here. Letting go often brings more, not less. This isn't some trick or wishful thinking. It's a principle deeply woven into the fabric of life itself. Force invites resistance, openness invites flow. When you loosen your grip, you return to the present moment with fresh eyes. From that grounded space, your decisions become clearer and more precise, free from the distracting noise of anxiety or desperation. Think about how differently you behave when you're calm and centered, when you're not hinging your happiness on some future event or achievement. Your energy shifts. Your presence becomes magnetic, drawing people and possibilities toward you rather than pushing them away with tension. Even when things don't go as planned, you don't collapse. You don't spiral into frustration or despair because you're no longer chained to a fixed outcome. Instead, you stay committed to your truth, to growth, and to showing up with integrity no matter how the external world responds. This is the transformative power of surrender. It doesn't just return your life to you as a prize for letting go, it gives it back as a natural outcome of being fully present. It's about no longer postponing your peace until the perfect conditions arrive. So ask yourself, what are you gripping so tightly that it's creating more tension than movement in your life? What are you afraid will slip away if you stop chasing it so relentlessly? And what might it feel like to want something deeply without needing it to define your worth or identity? That shift, that subtle but profound change is everything. It doesn't dull your passion or dampen your ambition, it grounds them. It reminds you gently but firmly that you are already enough, that life isn't a battle to win or a mountain to conquer, it's a dance to align with. And when you live from that place, free-focused and fully present, what you truly need will often find its way to you, not because you demanded it, but because you were finally ready to receive it. Relationships often serve as some of the most powerful mirrors reflecting our deep desire for control. In our closest connections, whether with partners, family, or friends, we frequently, sometimes unconsciously, try to shape others into versions that fit our needs and expectations. We expect them to respond exactly as we would to love us according to our own definition of love, and to meet our needs without us having to voice them. When reality doesn't align with these expectations, frustration naturally arises. What happens next is a subtle but significant shift. We start managing behaviors, correcting actions, or even manipulating situations. Not necessarily out of malice, but because fear is at the heart of it all. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing the connection that feels vital to our well-being. But surrender in relationships teaches us a crucial lesson. Love is not control. It is not bending someone to fit comfortably within your own boundaries or comfort zone. True love means allowing someone to be completely themselves even when that challenges you, even when it triggers your own insecurities. Surrender within relationships doesn't mean silence or avoidance. It means releasing the illusion that intimacy requires control. Genuine connection thrives on freedom, not on pressure or coercion. The more you attempt to control how someone shows up, the more tension you inevitably create. Ironically, trying to secure emotional safety through control often makes the relationship feel more fragile and unsafe. People need room to be authentic, to evolve, and to grow. That room can only exist when we are willing to surrender our assumptions about how others should be. But make no mistake, surrender in relationships doesn't equate to tolerating dysfunction, accepting harm, or settling for less than what's healthy and respectful. It means recognizing the fine line between expressing your needs and trying to control the outcome, between holding someone accountable and trying to rewrite their personality, between loving someone as they are and resenting them for not becoming the person you hope for. There is a strange freeing beauty in releasing the script we have written for others, choosing instead to meet them as they are today, rather than who we wish they might become tomorrow. This shift doesn't mean you stop caring. Rather, it invites you to listen more deeply, to soften your stance, and to become less reactive. Within that softening, deeper understanding begins to emerge. Communication becomes more fluid and open, and conflicts shift from battles of blame to opportunities for clarity. We move away from trying to win arguments or control outcomes, and instead focus on fostering genuine connection. And when connection arises from surrender, it often feels more fulfilling than anything we could have forced into existence. Because now it's real, not built on conditions or performances, but rooted in presence. You show up authentically, they show up imperfectly, but honestly. So take a moment now to pause and reflect. In which relationships are you holding on too tightly? Where are you trying to control the narrative out of fear, fear of loss, fear of disappointment, or fear of vulnerability. And imagine just for a moment what might shift if you let go, not of the person, but of the pressure to control. The answer might feel uncomfortable at first, but with that discomfort often comes freedom, the freedom to feel what is truly real and true. The freedom to relate to others without the heavy armor of fear and expectation. The freedom to love deeply without clinging or grasping for control. When two people come together from this space of openness, something truly sacred unfolds. It's not about controlling or possessing each other, but about choosing moment by moment to honor one another exactly as they are. This is the quiet strength of surrendered love that doesn't seek to own or dominate, but to understand and accept. Within that understanding grows a connection that runs deeper than power or control. It is a connection rooted in presence, a deep, living presence in the here and now. Yet the present moment is often overlooked or dismissed. We're so preoccupied reaching for what's next, lamenting the past, or trying to manage all the possible things that could go wrong that we forget where life truly unfolds here in this very moment. And paradoxically, this is the only place where anything real can truly be experienced. It's the only space where joy blossoms, where clarity dawns, where love flows, and where transformation takes root. But living fully in the present demands something many of us resist, surrendering the urge to mentally escape it. We flee into subtle distractions, endless planning, constant busyness, replaying past conversations, anticipating future outcomes. Our minds racing ahead, convinced that the next moment is somehow more important than this one. But the next moment is simply another now. And if we don't learn how to be present in this one, we'll miss the countless moments that follow. Surrendering to the now doesn't mean abandoning dreams or preparations. Instead, it means ceasing to resist what is. It means embracing life as it unfolds without fighting it with harsh expectations or judgment. It means allowing the moment to be enough, not perfect, not easy, but simply enough. There is a profound quiet power in that shift. When we drop fully into the present, something inside us softens. The internal noise quiets. Our breath deepens. Our perception clears. We begin to realize that much of our suffering is not caused by the moment itself, but by our refusal to fully enter it. The now is where your strength lives. It's where clarity arises. When you are fully here, you respond with greater wisdom, connect with more honesty, and create from a place of authenticity. You no longer get pulled in countless directions by what ifs and should haves. Instead, you are grounded, and in that groundedness, life feels less chaotic because you are no longer scattered across imagined timelines and unreal expectations. You have returned to your center. This doesn't mean the present is always peaceful. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes uncertain, sometimes uncomfortable. But even in those moments beneath the surface, there is something steady and unshakable stillness, a presence that remains. And the more you learn to return to that space, regardless of what's happening around or within you, the more resilient you become. Too often, we wait for the world around us to change before we allow ourselves to feel peace. We think, once my life is perfect, then I will be calm. But peace doesn't come from having a flawless life. It comes from being fully alive in the life you already have. And that transformation begins when you surrender the mental habit of postponing your presence. Instead of saying, I'll feel okay when, choose to say, I choose to show up now, because now is the only moment where anything truly happens. Every insight, every transformation, every courageous step, every spark of creativity and connection begins here in this very moment. And when you surrender to this moment, not because it's perfect, but because it's real, you start moving through life with more grace, clarity, and power than you ever imagined possible. So gently ask yourself, where are you right now? Not physically, but mentally, emotionally, energetically. Are you truly here? Or are you lost in a future you cannot control or a past you cannot change? If you're not fully present, come back. Come back to your breath, to the sensations in your chest, to the solid ground beneath your feet. Come back to what is real. Because this moment, just as it is not something to rush through. It's something to live deeply. And when you do, you'll discover that surrender is not just about releasing control. It's about coming home. Coming home to yourself, to this breath, to the now. So much of what we chase, peace, clarity, connection, purpose, is already within reach. We just miss it, not because it's hidden, but because we're moving too fast, clenching too tightly, and trying desperately to force life into a mold it was never meant to fit. Somewhere in all that frantic effort, we forget the real nature of surrender. It's not giving up. It's tuning in. It's choosing to meet life exactly where it is, not where we wish it to be. It's trusting that we don't have to carry every burden alone. That control isn't the path to freedom, presence is. Forcing outcomes might yield short-lived results, but surrender creates lasting alignment, the kind of alignment that transforms not just what we experience, but who we become while experiencing it. Maybe the most important question isn't, what do I need to make happen, but what am I being asked to let go of? What beliefs no longer serve you? What expectations are stealing your peace? What tight grip on control is keeping joy just out of reach? And what might happen if for once you softened your hold, slowed your pace, and simply allowed life to meet you where you are? This is not just a philosophy to admire from afar. It's a practice, a path, a way of showing up in the world that is honest, grounded, and deeply courageous. Because it takes courage to stop pushing. It takes strength to be still. And it takes trust to believe that what's meant for you will never have to be forced. So as you step back into your day, carry this truth with you. Surrender is not the end of effort. It's the beginning of true power. A power that moves with life, not against it. A power that invites rather than demands, collaborates, rather than controls, trusts rather than panics. Start there. Start now. One breath at a time, one moment at a time, surrender. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally ready to live from your deepest strength. And if this message resonates with you, share it, reflect on it, and revisit it whenever you forget. Because surrender is not a one-time achievement, it's a continual remembering, a gentle whisper from life itself saying, let go.